He grabs her wrist before she can bolt again. Stop. She thrashes, silent, wild, eyes blown wide like a cornered animal. I'm not hurting you. She claws at his coat. He tightens his grip just enough to keep her from falling backward into the dark. You're bleeding. She tries to scream but no sound comes. Only air. Only panic. Fine, he mutters. Don't say anything. He drags her inside the cabin and shuts the door hard. The latch echoes. She stands near the stove, shaking. Mud on her bare feet. Rope burns around both wrists. A bruise swelling along her jaw. He kneels and reaches for her hands. She jerks away. I need to clean it. No answer. You from town? Nothing. Someone do this to you? Her eyes flick to the door. You can blink. She does not blink. You mute? Silence. He pours water into a tin bowl. Steam curls up. He sets it between them. Sit. She doesn't. He sits instead. You're on my land. That means you're under my roof now. She watches the fire, not him. You safe here. Her jaw tightens at the word safe. A knock pounds the door. He stands slow. Stay. She moves toward the back wall anyway. The knock comes again, louder. He opens it halfway. Sheriff Carter stands there, hat low, badge catching firelight from inside. Evening. It's past midnight. You're out late, the sheriff says. Found someone. The sheriff leans to look past him. That so? The girl freezes. The badge glints in her eyes. She steps back. Who is she? The sheriff asks. Don't know. Looks rough. Found her near the ridge. Mute? Seems like it. The sheriff steps inside without asking. His boots leave wet prints on the wood. You from the South Road? He asks the girl. No reply. You lost? Nothing. Or hiding? She ain't talking, the rancher says. Maybe she can't, the sheriff replies. Or maybe she's scared. He crouches to her level. You scared of him? The rancher stiffens. That enough. The sheriff stands. Bring her to town tomorrow. She needs rest. Town decides what she needs. He smiles thin. County business. The girl's fingers dig into the rancher's sleeve. The sheriff notices. Funny thing, he says, I heard about a missing girl from up past the coal flats. The rancher says nothing. Family says she don't speak much. The sheriff watches her face. She trembles but holds his stare. You recognize me? He asks her quietly. Her breathing turns sharp and fast. She stays here tonight, the rancher says. That wasn't a request. Then make it one. Silence fills the room, thick as smoke. The sheriff studies him a long moment. Tomorrow, he repeats. Don't get attached. He steps outside. The truck engine turns over slow. Headlights sweep across the cabin walls before fading down the dirt road. The rancher shuts the door and locks it. He leans against it for a second. You know him. She doesn't move. He know you? Nothing. You running from him? Her shoulders twitch. He walks to the window and watches the last red taillight disappear. When he turns back, she is still staring at the fire, unmoving, like she is waiting for it to speak first. He slides a scrap of paper across the table. Write your name. She leans over, pencil hovering, then scratches a circle. That's not a name, he says, frowning. Another circle, smaller, inside the first. He taps it. You messing with me? Her eyes dart toward the window, toward the ridge outside. You from the coal camp? No reaction. Lost? Still nothing. Someone heard you? She jerks in a sharp inhale. He notices her gaze landing on a photograph tacked to the wall, a woman holding a little girl. That's my wife, he says quietly. She doesn't respond. She died. Our daughter too. She moves closer to the door, pressing her palm against the wood. You can't go back, he says softly. They'll find you. Her hands shake at the word they, and he wonders what she has seen. The night presses against the cabin. Wind rakes through the cracks, rattling the shutters. She wakes suddenly, body tense, silent scream etched across her features. He sits beside her, hand on the floorboard she's been scratching at. What are you doing? She freezes. Nothing. There's nothing under there. She presses her ear to the wood, listening. Her fingers tap rhythms he cannot read, a secret he can't touch. You hear that? He whispers. No answer. Only the hollow thrum beneath the boards. He pulls the bowl of water closer and watches her. The firelight flickers across her face, shadows exaggerating the cuts and dirt. She lifts her chin, daring him, or maybe herself, to break first. You want to talk? He doesn't wait for a response. I'll ask once more, who did this to you? She shakes her head violently. He leans back, hands over his eyes. Then she rises, moving slowly to the corner where the floor sags slightly. Fingers trail along the edge of a hidden panel. Nothing there, he says, but his voice lacks conviction. She freezes, then presses her ear closer. Her body trembles. He doesn't know if she's listening for someone or something long gone. He notices the old photograph again. The woman's eyes, the child's small hand, and something about the way the girl studies it. She picks at the frame, hesitates, then traces a finger across the glass. Your family? He asks. She doesn't answer. Only points at the fire. She moves toward it slowly, hands tucked to her chest, afraid to reach. Don't move too fast, he says. You might fall. She steps back, watching him as if testing. He feels the weight of her gaze. You understand me, he says. She blinks, just once, and looks away. Minutes pass. The fire snaps and hisses. He pours water from the tin bowl over a rag and dabs at her cuts. She jerks away. Stop. He doesn't. This isn't help? She shakes her head. Silence swells in the cabin. Only the wind interrupts, dragging itself through the cracks. He speaks softly. You're not alone. She glances at him, a flicker of curiosity or mistrust. Then her eyes drop. He notices her trembling fingers brushing against her mouth, her lips pressed tight. She isn't mute. She's choosing not to speak. He sighs. Fine. Don't talk. But you can't just sit there. She tilts her head, watching his hand tremble as he sets the wet rag down. He stands and moves toward the door. Outside? He gestures. She hesitates, then follows a few steps behind. The porch groans under her weight. He lights the lantern. Look at me, he says. She lifts her eyes briefly. He studies her face, dirt-streaked, bruises dark, expression unreadable. He doesn't know if she's afraid of him or the world beyond the ridge. The wind gusts again. He holds the lantern steady. No one's coming tonight, he says. You're safe here. She moves to the railing, gripping it tightly, her knuckles white. He notices the scar on her wrist, faint and old. You been through this before? He waits for a sign, any motion. She doesn't give one. Only a slow shiver, subtle, like a tremor of memory. He steps closer. Tomorrow, we figure out your name. For now, just breathe. She glances at him, head tilting slightly, but still silent. He turns, letting the lantern light sway across the cabin boards, and for the first time, he feels the weight of her silence as something more than fear, something deliberate. Hours stretch. She leans against the doorframe, watching him move about, never speaking. He sets the bowl aside, wraps a blanket around her shoulders. Her eyes meet his briefly, flaring with an intensity he can't name. I won't hurt you, he says. Nothing. He sits in the corner, back against the wall, listening to the faint scratches at the floorboards she won't explain. Outside, the ridge stands dark and unyielding. Inside, only the fire and her silence mark the night. Finally, he lies back, exhausted. She sits near the stove, knees tucked, chin resting on her arms. She watches the fire. He studies her, sees the tension in her shoulders, the rigid line of her spine, the calculated calm in her eyes. She could be anywhere. She could be anyone. And yet she is here. He exhales slowly, knowing that tomorrow will demand more answers she may never give, questions he cannot ask, and a silence that will stretch far longer than the ridge outside. She does not blink. He does. He kneels beside the spot she's been scratching at, prying at the loose floorboard. Careful, he says. She leans over, watching, fingers twitching at her sides. The wood lifts with a creak. Beneath, something glints. Metal, dull and tarnished. He pulls it free, a sheriff's badge, folded in a piece of rough cloth. The girl lunges forward, hands trembling. No, she hisses silently, trying to snatch it away. He holds it out of reach. What is it? She shakes her head violently, lips pressed tight. Her eyes flash, fury or fear, he cannot tell. You know this? She presses her throat with one hand, rocking slightly. He studies the badge. The engraving is worn, letters faint, H. A Whitlock. Who's Whitlock? He doesn't wait for an answer. She slaps the badge from his hand, sending it clattering across the floor. He picks it up again. Talk to me. I can't help you if you don't. She flinches, backs away, then touches the fire's edge, staring at the flames as if seeking counsel. A sudden knock rattles the cabin door. Sheriff Carter's voice, calm but sharp, cuts through. Everything all right in there? The rancher tenses. Fine. She's sleeping? Yeah. The sheriff steps in, uninvited, boots echoing on the boards. He notices the missing floorboard. Renovating? The girl presses behind the rancher, eyes wide, clutching his sleeve. No, nothing, the rancher lies. The sheriff smiles thinly. That badge on the floor, is that yours? He tilts his head, eyes lingering. She flinches. The rancher tightens his jaw. It's nothing. The sheriff steps closer, leaning over the gap in the floor. Curious. You keep a lot of secrets in this cabin. His gaze flicks to the girl. You recognize this? She shakes violently. The rancher steps in front of her. She's not talking. The sheriff chuckles. Or can't. Which is it? He straightens and leaves, voice low over his shoulder. Town will want answers soon enough. The door slams behind him. Silence fills the room, heavy, oppressive. The girl presses her forehead against the wall, breathing fast, chest heaving. He picks up the badge again, staring at the engraving. Whitlock. His father's old partner? The memories he'd buried for years rise unbidden, stories whispered around fires, half-forgotten rumors of corruption, of disappearances, of a man no one talked about. He kneels before her. Do you know him? She presses her palm over the badge, shaking her head slowly. Then she scratches two small circles on the floor with her fingers. One inside the other. Father and son, he whispers. She nods once, stiff, deliberate. His chest tightens. He retrieves a trunk in the corner, dust coating his hands. Inside, old letters, a sheriff's uniform, and scraps of newspaper. One letter burns his eyes, edges charred, writing partially destroyed. She points to it, shaking her hands. "He burned something," he says, voice low. She nods slowly. Her eyes dart to the window, toward the ridge beyond. The wind rattles the cabin, whispering in through the cracks. He can feel it pressing against her, pressing against him, carrying the echoes of long-past crimes. Minutes pass in tense stillness. He kneels beside the well-worn floorboard, turning the badge over in his hands. "You're telling me something," he says. She points outside, toward the ridge. Then, with a sharp, deliberate motion, she scratches one word into the table with the pencil she's been holding. "Well." His hand freezes. "The old well?" She nods slowly, eyes fixed, unblinking. The air grows heavier, pressing around them, filled with memories she won't speak, secrets he can't yet name. He stands, grabs a lantern, and gestures toward the door. "We need to see it. Now." She doesn't hesitate. She follows a few steps behind him, silent, deliberate. Each creak of the cabin boards under her weight sounds like a warning. Outside, the wind scours across the ridge. The moonlight glints off the badge in his pocket. He glances at her. "You've been here before." She says nothing. Only watches the path ahead. The lantern light sways, illuminating the rough terrain. Her hand brushes against his sleeve. A reminder, she is both fragile and relentless. "Whatever's down there," he says, "we face it together." She nods once, small, but determined. He adjusts the strap of the lantern and begins down the slope, eyes on the ridge, ears straining for any sound of pursuit. She steps behind him, silent but steady, shadows stretching long across the earth, blending past and present, memory and fear. They reach the top of the ridge, where the old well stands, abandoned, water dark and still. He sets the lantern down. She leans over the edge, fingers brushing the rope frayed and aged. He watches her face in the lantern glow. Her jaw tight, eyes wide. He reaches out a hand, and she hesitates, then takes it. "You're not alone," he whispers. Her head dips slightly, emotion heavy with understanding, and for the first time, he feels she trusts him enough to share the weight of the past. The wind moans through the ridge. Night presses close. Lantern light flickers across the stone and wood of the well. He kneels beside her. "Tomorrow," he says, "we find the truth." She doesn't speak. She doesn't blink. She only watches the water, the darkness below, as if waiting for it to answer. And in that silence, he knows the night has already begun to tell its story. He kneels beside the old trunk again, lantern light bouncing across the dust-covered letters and faded uniform pieces. She watches him from a few steps back, arms crossed, eyes dark and unreadable. He pulls a charred envelope from the corner, edges blackened as if fire had touched it once and recoiled. "Look at this," he says, holding it up. She leans forward slightly, but doesn't speak. He flips it open, revealing fragments of writing, words half-burned, half-preserved. "Whitlock," he mutters, reading the faded ink. "H.A. Whitlock." Her eyes flare, hands twitching. She presses both hands to her throat. "You know him," he says softly. She shakes violently. "No." He tilts his head, studying her. "You're lying." Her gaze drops to the floor. He pulls out another letter, folds trembling as he reads aloud. "He disappeared. Nobody knew where he went. Stories said he took girls in, and some never came back." Her hands clench into fists. "You're talking about my father?" he asks. She nods once, stiff, deliberate, not blinking. "He burned something," she whispers, barely audible. She points to the letter's charred edges. He looks up, catching her stare. "You were there?" She shakes her head. Or maybe she shakes yes, he cannot tell. Silence presses between them, thick as the night outside. The cabin walls seem to lean in, listening. He stands and moves toward the fireplace, examining the ashes left from old fires. His fingers brush blackened fragments, pulling out a metal pin, a badge clipped to nothing, tarnished and dull. This was him, he mutters, weight pressing down. She steps closer, silent but intent, watching every movement. He notices the tremor in her hands, subtle but constant. "Why are you helping me?" he asks softly. She tilts her head, no answer. He kneels again, placing the badge on the table. "I never met him. But you remember everything." She presses her hand over the badge. "Too much," she whispers without words. The wind rattles through the cracks in the cabin. Outside, the ridge looms dark and immovable. He glances at her, noticing the tight line of her jaw, the pale bruises that bloom under the lantern's light. "You saw him hurt people," he says. Her eyes narrow. She scratches 2 circles into the floor, one large, one small inside. "Father and son?" he asks quietly. She nods, slow, deliberate. His chest tightens. He slides the charred letter back into the envelope. "You've carried this," he says, voice low. She leans closer to him, shoulders stiff, eyes fixed on the fire. He moves to the cabin window, looking toward the ridge. "The old well," he says, suddenly remembering her gestures from the night before. She stiffens. "That's where it started, isn't it?" She presses her palm to the glass, fingers trembling. He sets down the lantern, kneeling beside her. "We'll go there," he says. "Tonight." Her eyes flick to him. Not fear, not trust, something sharper, something demanding. He sees the way her lips twitch, ready to speak but stopping herself. "I can't make you talk," he admits. "But I can't ignore it either." She steps back slightly, scanning the cabin, memorizing the details. He notices her lingering glance at the photograph on the wall, the woman and the little girl. "They didn't survive," he says, quiet. "My wife, my daughter." She tilts her head. Presses her lips tight. He kneels near the well-worn floorboards again, fingers brushing over scratches she left last night. "You've been through worse than I'll ever know," he whispers. She leans against the wall, silent, tense, like she is remembering, calculating. He picks up the lantern again and steps toward the door. "We go to the well," he says. She follows, just a few steps behind, careful. The cabin creaks beneath them. Shadows shift across the walls. Outside, the ridge waits, dark, heavy, patient. He adjusts the lantern strap, feeling the weight of her silence pressing against his chest. "Whatever's down there," he says, "we face it together." She doesn't blink. Only follows, silent but unyielding. The night air is cold against his face. Wind whistles through the ridges. They step down the slope toward the abandoned well, rope frayed, stone rim cracked and darkened by time. She leans over the edge, hands brushing the rope. Lantern-like glimmers on her tense fingers. "Are you ready?" he asks softly. She lifts her eyes. A single nod, small, deliberate. He kneels beside her, hand hovering near hers. "Whatever we find, we face it," he whispers. She presses her palm against his briefly. Silent, unwavering. He lifts the lantern higher, casting a pool of light across the well. Dark water stares back. The ridge looms behind them, shadows deep. He feels her gaze on him, knowing, challenging, waiting. "Tomorrow," he says quietly, "we find the truth." She leans closer, shoulders tense, unblinking. The air hums with memory, fear, and the weight of secrets long buried. For the first time, he sees her not as mute, not as victim, but as a force steady, deliberate, demanding reckoning. The lantern sways in the wind. Night presses close. And together, they stare into the darkness below, waiting. The ridge is cold, wind biting through their coats as they approach the old well. He sets the lantern down on the cracked stone rim. She leans forward, fingers brushing the frayed rope, eyes fixed on the black water below. "You were here before," he says softly. She does not answer. Only a slight nod, just enough to confirm. He crouches beside her, studying her face in the lantern glow. "Whatever happened here," he whispers, "we face it together." She presses a hand against his arm briefly, then steps back, scanning the darkness, tense and deliberate. A truck engine hums faintly, then headlights cut through the ridge, harsh and sudden. Sheriff Carter's voice carries across the rocks. "Out late?" The rancher stiffens. "Following us?" The sheriff's truck stops, engine idling, lights bouncing. "County business," he calls. "Step aside." The girl grips the rancher's sleeve, small fingers tightening. He steps in front of her, lantern held high. "You don't belong here," the sheriff says, voice smooth, too calm. "Neither of you." He climbs down the slope, boots crunching over gravel, eyes never leaving her. "Remember me?" the sheriff asks, crouching slightly. She recoils, shoulder tense. "You were little then," he continues. The rancher stiffens, jaw tight. What's he talking about? The girl does not speak. Only trembles, lips pressed tight. The sheriff grins thinly. "Your daddy had habits. Things people don't tell stories about." The rancher's fists clench. "You don't touch her," he says. The sheriff tilts his head. "I'm not touching her." He gestures toward the well. "But you buried more than water in this land." The girl stares into the well. She gasps, first audible sound, raw and fragile. The rancher glances at her, panic and concern flashing across his features. "Stay back," he says. She does not move. Sheriff Carter laughs softly. "You can't change the past. You didn't stop it then. You won't stop it now." His voice drips with history, accusation. He steps closer. "Your father. My partner. He hurt more than one." The girl's jaw tightens. She presses her palm against her throat, trembling violently. "Don't speak," the rancher snaps, stepping between her and the sheriff. His chest heaves. The sheriff smirks. "Oh, she'll speak soon enough. Or maybe you will." He leans close to the rancher, voice low. "You ignored it, didn't you? All those rumors. All those disappearances." The girl presses her fists to her sides, shaking, trying to contain herself. He grabs her hand gently. "We leave now," he whispers. She shakes her head, eyes fixed on the sheriff. "No," she finally whispers, voice barely audible. "Not yet." The sheriff's grin sharpens. "The well," he says, pointing downward. "Do you know what was thrown in here?" The girl swallows hard, trembling. The rancher steps closer. "She doesn't want to tell you." The sheriff shrugs. "Fine. But everyone has to answer eventually." He steps to the edge, peering down into the darkness. "Your father did what you fear most." She gasps again, small sound, jagged and trembling. The rancher grips the rope of the well, steadying himself. "You stay back," he says. No one touches her. A silence presses, heavy, broken only by the wind whipping across the ridge. The girl leans slightly forward, fingers brushing the rope again. Her eyes flash toward the rancher. "Did he?" she starts. Her voice breaks off. He shakes his head, gripping her arm. "No. Don't say it." She presses her lips together, trembling. The sheriff watches, amused. "Blood doesn't lie," he says softly. "Truth waits at the bottom." The girl turns toward the rancher, desperation in her eyes. He holds her gaze. "You're safe. I promise." The sheriff laughs. Safe? You think you can protect her from what's buried here? From what your family did? He steps closer to the well, eyes sharp. The girl presses herself against the rancher, eyes wide. Not him, he says quietly. He's done enough. The sheriff's grin falters for a fraction of a second. Enough? You're standing over history you can't erase. The girl suddenly steps forward, voice low but firm. Stop. Both men freeze. The wind seems to quiet, holding its breath. She steps closer, unwavering, a presence solid against the sheriff's arrogance. You watched, she says, voice stronger, commanding. She looks at the rancher. You helped. The rancher swallows. I looked away, he admits softly. I should have done more. The girl turns her gaze on the sheriff. I won't be quiet, she says. Trembling, firm, her eyes burn with resolve. The sheriff falters, surprised, unprepared. The rancher grips her shoulder, steady, proud. The girl steps closer to the well, looking down into the darkness. Enough hiding, she whispers. Lantern light flickers across her determined face. The sheriff backs away, startled by the force in her voice, the calm that masks years of trauma. The wind picks up again, sharp against their faces. He kneels beside her, hand hovering near hers. Whatever comes next, he says, voice steady, we face it together. She nods slightly, fingers brushing his palm. They stare into the well, water dark and still, reflecting nothing and everything. Silence, heavy, thick, presses against the ridge. Lantern light trembles in the gusts. She leans slightly forward, steadying herself. The sheriff retreats, muttering about county business and witnesses, but keeps his distance. The rancher exhales slowly. He feels her presence solid beside him. Tomorrow, he whispers, we find the truth. She nods again, small, determined, unblinking. Shadows stretch long across the rocks and rope. The ridge stands vast, silent, and patient. Lantern light dances across her face, highlighting the tension, fear, and courage all tangled together. She watches the water, waiting for something, maybe justice, maybe closure, maybe recognition. The wind whistles through the ridge. Only the night, only the well, only their presence marks this place. The girl steps closer to the well, lantern light flickering across her pale face. Her fingers brush the frayed rope, gripping it tightly, knuckles white. He kneels beside her, eyes on the dark water, but he can feel her shaking beside him, a quiet storm coiled in her chest. Tell me, he whispers, voice low. She presses her hand to her throat, trembling violently, shoulders rigid. He swallows hard. Whatever you saw, whatever happened. I need to know. Her gaze shifts to him, unblinking, as if weighing the truth, the consequences, and the safety he promised. Did he, she starts, voice breaking, then stops, pressing her palms against her cheeks. He takes a careful step closer. Your father? You mean him? She nods once, sharp, deliberate, eyes wide with memory. And you? He asks softly. Her fingers tremble, showing 5 fingers. 5 years old, she whispers finally. He blinks, chest tightening. No, he mutters. She nods harder, confirming. I didn't, he chokes out. She shakes her head, voice barely a whisper, dark. Cold. Words small, jagged, like fragments of ice falling into water. He grips the lantern, shaking slightly. I should have known, he says. Rumors, stories. I ignored them. She leans closer to the well, fingertips brushing the dark water. You watched, she says, voice breaking. You did nothing. He swallows, guilt pressing heavy, chest tight. I didn't see it clearly, he admits. I thought the stories were just that, stories. I looked away. She presses her lips tight. Her small frame trembles, but she does not step back. You should have acted, she whispers, eyes blazing. He reaches out, hand hovering near hers. I won't run from it now, he says. Whatever it takes, I'll fix it. Her head tilts slightly, considering. You, she asks, fragile but pointed. He shakes his head. No. I didn't hurt her. But I let him do it. Her jaw tightens. She leans against the stone rim of the well, fingers brushing the mossy edge. You carry it, she says softly. I know. His throat tightens. He looks down into the water. Shadows ripple across the surface, reflecting past and present, guilt and fear. The wind whistles sharply across the ridge. He shivers. She does not. I remember everything, she whispers. The fire. The screams. The cold. He steps closer. You were alone? She nods. I tried to scream. She presses her lips tight, shaking her head. No one came. He swallows hard. I wish I could have been there, he says quietly. Her fingers brush his arm, searching for warmth, a tether to reality, to someone willing to see the truth. He kneels beside her, hand resting lightly on her shoulder. We end it now, he says. She looks at him, eyes sharp, measuring, wondering if he can bear it. You end it, she whispers. You choose. He swallows, gaze dropping. He sees the fear in her face, the courage, the history of survival pressed into every line of her body. I'll face it, he says. She leans back slightly, pressing her hands to her chest. Tell me, she says softly. I need to hear it. He shakes his head. You will. In time. Minutes pass. Silence stretches, only broken by the wind through the ridge. Her eyes flick to the well, dark and still. She whispers one word, cold. He shivers again. She presses her lips tight, then another, dark. He swallows. Every shadow feels heavier. Every sound sharper. He reaches for the badge in his pocket, feeling its weight against his palm. This is him, he mutters. She doesn't flinch, doesn't speak. Only watches him. Her gaze steady, unyielding, demanding reckoning. He exhales slowly, looking into the water with her. You were brave, he says softly. She finally steps away from the edge, fingers trembling but steady. I have to tell someone, she whispers. The sheriff? He shakes his head. No. Not him. Not yet. She tilts her head, considering. The wind presses against them, relentless, carrying the memory of everything long buried. Lantern light trembles across their faces, flickering shadows dancing over grief, anger, and fear. She presses her hand against his chest. You knew, she whispers. I saw it. He nods, voice low. I did. I looked away. Her small hand trembles slightly. We end it here, she says. Together. He reaches for the frayed rope of the well, steadying himself. Together, he confirms. Shadows stretch long across the ridge, moonlight reflecting off the dark water below. They kneel beside it, hand in hand, silent but present, facing the weight of memory, truth, and the choices that will shape what comes next. The wind winds through the ridge. She leans slightly against him, eyes fixed on the well. Say it, she whispers. He swallows hard, knowing the next words, the next truth, will change everything. Silence presses, thick and heavy, only broken by the faint whistle of the wind. Lantern light flickers across their faces. Their breaths hang in the cold night air, tense, unsteady. And in that darkness, the girl finally begins to speak, not words yet, only whispers, the first tremors of history surfacing. The girl trembles, hand pressed against the well's frayed rope, lantern light dancing across her pale face. Sheriff Carter steps closer, voice smooth, too calm. Tell him. Say his name. The rancher steps between them, chest tight. Don't, he says, low, urgent. She presses her lips tight, shaking violently, shoulders rigid. The wind whistles across the ridge, sharp and cold, carrying tension and memory like a blade. Say it, the sheriff repeats, leaning closer, eyes gleaming. She jerks her head toward the rancher. He grips her arm, steady, protective. You don't owe him anything, he says. She doesn't answer. Only trembles. The sheriff chuckles thinly. Blood doesn't lie. Secrets always spill. Say it. Her jaw tightens. She stares at him, unblinking, calculating. You want me to betray him, she whispers. I'm asking the truth, the sheriff says. Speak, or the story stays half-buried. The rancher steps closer, voice urgent. Don't. Whatever you say, it's yours to give, not his to take. She presses her forehead against the rope, hands clutching tight, eyes closed. You don't understand, she whispers. I remember everything. Say who did it. Carter snaps. The girl jerks her head up, eyes blazing, body tense as a bowstring. The rancher grabs her hand. Not now. Don't. She shakes violently, then presses her lips together, trembling. The sheriff smirks. The name. Say it. Her eyes dart from him to the rancher, weighing, measuring. The wind picks up, whipping hair across her face. Lantern light flickers. Shadows dance across her bruised cheeks, her tense shoulders. Her breathing is sharp, deliberate, every inhale loud in the cold air. Finally, her lips part. A sound escapes, small, fragile, jagged. Whitlock. The sheriff smiles, satisfied, smug. The rancher exhales slowly, relief crashing through him. The girl doesn't look at him. She turns, face sharp, unwavering, eyes fixed. James. His name. His chest tightens. He freezes, heart hammering. The sheriff laughs softly. See? Truth comes out. The girl presses her palms to her chest. You knew, she whispers to him, voice trembling but fierce. I looked away, he admits. I thought ignoring it would make it disappear. She stares at him, small body trembling, chin high. You chose, she says. Her voice grows steadier, more controlled. The sheriff steps closer, hand on his gun. Careful, the rancher warns. You're done here. Carter smiles thinly. Blood doesn't wash clean. She leans slightly forward, trembling, voice low but resolute. You watched. You helped. The rancher swallows hard. I did. I didn't act, and I should have. But I'm here now. She studies him, then steps closer to the sheriff. I won't be quiet. Carter falters, caught off guard by the intensity, the small girl standing steady, commanding, demanding reckoning. You think you can stop what's already done, he asks. She tilts her head, voice strong. I can stop silence. I can speak. The rancher grips her shoulder. Together, he says. She nods slightly, trembling but unyielding. You won't touch me, she whispers to the sheriff. Carter steps back, wary, uneasy for the first time. The girl's voice grows firmer. I'm not afraid anymore. The wind gusts, carrying loose dirt across the ridge. Lantern light flickers against their faces, shadows sharp. The rancher kneels beside her. You're brave, he whispers. She presses her hand against his, grounding herself, steadying. The sheriff's face tightens, realizing control has slipped. This isn't over, he says, voice low, warning. She steps forward, small but resolute. It ends now, she says. Right here. The rancher nods. Yes. Right here. Together. Carter glances at the well, dark and still, then back at her. His smirk falters. She looks at the rancher again. You were supposed to stop it, she says softly, trembling. He swallows. I should have. I didn't. But I'm with you now. Her eyes soften, a fraction, before hardening again. Then we face it, she says. Carter mutters something about witnesses, backing off, eyes narrowing. The girl doesn't flinch. Lantern light glints off the frayed rope and the well's cracked stone. She presses her lips tight, chest heaving, gaze steady, unyielding. The rancher places a hand lightly on the rope, feeling the weight of history and truth pressing down. Whatever happens next, he says, voice low, we face it. She nods once, small but deliberate. Together. The wind whistles sharply. Lantern light sways across their faces. The sheriff takes a cautious step back. Shadows stretch long, deep, folding over the ridge, carrying the weight of memory, trauma, and long-buried secrets. She steps closer to the well, eyes fixed on the dark water below, voice soft but certain, say it. The rancher swallows, nods, looking at her, heart pounding. She leans slightly forward, trembling but steady. The sheriff hesitates. She presses her hand to his arm briefly, grounding him. The ridge stands silent, wind gusts sharp, night pressing close. Lantern light flickers over the rope, the water, the girl and the rancher standing together. The first word has been spoken. Justice, reckoning, and truth hover in the cold night air, waiting. The girl steps back from the well, shoulders tight, eyes fixed on the darkness below. The rancher kneels beside her, lantern swinging in his hand, casting long shadows across the cracked stone. Sheriff Carter hovers at the edge of the ridge, unease clear in the stiff line of his jaw. You can't just, he begins, voice low, but she cuts him off with a sharp shake of her head. I've already spoken, she says, trembling but firm. I'm done hiding. The wind gusts, whipping hair across her face, carrying her words across the ridge, carrying power, anger, and truth. The rancher grabs her hand, steadying her. It's not just about speaking, he says quietly. It's about acting. She stares at him, jaw tight. Then we act, she whispers. Carter steps closer, hand on his gun, but hesitates. The girl's gaze hardens. You think you have control, she says, voice low, commanding, but you've already lost it. Lantern light flickers, highlighting her bruised, dirt-streaked face, her small frame pulsing with courage. The sheriff's smirk falters. For the first time, he feels unsteady. She moves toward the edge of the ridge, past the well, gaze fixed on the valley below. The line stops here, she says, voice cutting through the wind. The rancher follows, steady beside her. No one else will fall, he adds, voice low but firm. Carter swallows, eyes narrowing, realizing her determination isn't empty. You can't, he tries again. She spins on him, small fists trembling but steady. I said stop. Her voice carries, sharp, unyielding. The rancher grips her shoulder lightly. Stand your ground, he whispers. She nods once, firm, and the sheriff steps back, uneasy, unwilling. The ridge feels alive, tension thick, wind howling through the rocks. She kneels by the well, fingers brushing the rope, eyes fixed on the dark water. Everything buried here ends tonight, she says, voice quiet but piercing. The rancher kneels beside her, hand on hers. We face it together, he whispers. Shadows stretch long across the rocks, flickering with the lantern light. Carter shifts, uncertain, realizing the power has shifted. The girl is no longer silent. She is no longer afraid. She is a force. She leans slightly forward, peering into the well. I see it, she whispers. The rancher leans close, listening. Every lie. Every secret. Every bruise. Every scream. Her voice breaks but holds strength, carrying memory, trauma, and fury. Carter stiffens, stepping back, realizing she is naming what was hidden. She presses her hand against the rope, trembling slightly, then pulls herself upright. The line ends here, she repeats. Lantern light glimmers off the stone, illuminating determination, courage, and justice long delayed. The sheriff hesitates. This isn't how it's supposed to. He stops, voice faltering. The girl steps forward, trembling but steady, small frame rigid with purpose. It's how it is, she says. No one else gets hurt. No one else is afraid. The rancher tightens his grip on her hand. We're together, he says quietly. She nods. Carter glances at the well, at the ridge, at the two figures standing firm against him, and realizes control has slipped from his hands. Wind gusts harder. The ridge creaks beneath their weight. Lantern light dances across stone, rope, and faces. The girl's voice rises, low and commanding. Names, lies, secrets, they don't own us. The rancher nods, voice steady. We take what was stolen back. Carter swallows hard. You think you can change history? She asks, trembling but unwavering. I don't think, she says. I know. Her gaze cuts through him, sharp as a knife. She steps closer to the edge, hand brushing the rope, lantern light flickering across dirt and stone. The wind howls, carrying tension and memory. She turns to the rancher, voice low. Together, she whispers. He nods, eyes steady. Together, he repeats. Lantern swings, casting shadows, sharp edges across the ridge. Carter takes a cautious step back, finally silent, unready to confront the force she embodies. The girl leans slightly toward the well, trembling but steady. It's time, she whispers. Lantern light glints off the rope, stone, and water below, heavy with history, memory, and reckoning. Her lips part. Words small, trembling, but deliberate. Enough, she says. No more silence. No more fear. No more hiding. She presses her hand against the rancher's arm. Do you hear me? He whispers. She nods once, trembling, fire in her eyes. Carter steps back again, uneasy, shadows stretching long across his face. Lantern flickers, wind whistles, and the ridge feels heavy with history, choice, and the final breaking of the line. The girl steps back, chest heaving, eyes fixed on the ridge, on the well, on justice at last. The wind drops for a moment, leaving the ridge heavy and still. She leans against the rope, lantern light flickering across her bruised face. Heard the name, she whispers, voice raw, trembling, but deliberate. The rancher kneels beside her, hand brushing hers. Yes, he says softly. You said it. You've done it. Her eyes shift to the dark water below, black and still, reflecting shadows of past sins. It matters, she says, voice low. Every name matters. The rancher nods. And you said it. She presses her palm to his arm, grounding herself. Sheriff Carter stands a few steps back, silent, uneasy. His smirk is gone, replaced with a sharp, calculating stare. You can't erase it, he says, voice low. She shakes her head slightly, trembling but firm. No. But I can remember it. I can name it. That's enough. The rancher tightens his grip on her hand. That's more than enough. She glances at him, small nod, and steps closer to the well. Lantern light glances off the rope and stone. Shadows stretch, folding over memory, guilt, and fear. You know what comes next? The sheriff asks, voice edged, almost a challenge. She shakes her head, chest heaving, eyes sharp. I face it, she whispers. No one else will suffer. The rancher presses lightly on her shoulder. Together, he says. You won't be alone. She nods once, trembling, face pale but fierce. The ridge feels alive with tension, wind moving through cracks and stones, carrying the weight of the past. She looks down at the black water, imagining secrets hidden there. The sheriff takes a step back, muttering, uneasy, losing the control he once wielded. Names don't heal everything, he says softly. She straightens, small frame rigid. No. But they start something. They break silence. They break the line. Lantern light dances across her dirt-streaked cheeks, bruises, and trembling hands. The rancher leans close, voice low. You're the one who decides what comes next. She presses her palm briefly against his arm. I know, she whispers. Minutes pass. Silence stretches across the ridge. She kneels again beside the well, fingers brushing the rope, eyes locked on the dark water. Heard it, she whispers, voice breaking, trembling but deliberate. The rancher watches her, chest tight. You've done what others couldn't, he says softly. Her lips press together. She leans slightly forward, eyes sharp. I won't hide. I won't forget. Lantern light flickers, wind brushing hair across her face. Shadows stretch long across the ridge. Carter's eyes shift constantly, uneasy. She glances at the rancher. We move forward, she asks, voice quiet. He nods. Yes. Together. She presses her hand to his arm. I've carried this for too long, she whispers. Now it's heard. Now it's known. The wind picks up again, whistling through the ridge, carrying the weight of memory and fear away. Carter shifts, uneasy, realizing the shift in power. The girl is no longer silent. She is no longer afraid. She is the keeper of truth. Do you know what this means? The sheriff asks, voice low. She shakes her head slightly. It means I'm free, she says. Voice small, trembling, but firm. It means I choose. I name. I remember. And I stop it here. The rancher grips her hand lightly. And you will, he says softly. Lantern light glints across the rope and cracked stone, illuminating determination, courage, and the weight of history finally faced. She steps back, chest heaving, fingers brushing the lantern. The dark water reflects nothing, yet it holds everything. We end it, she whispers. The rancher nods. Together. Carter glances at the well, at them, and finally retreats, silent, unready to confront what she has become. The ridge holds its breath. Wind shifts again, shaking loose dust and leaves, carrying the ghosts of memory, trauma, and justice finally named. She presses her hand to the rancher's arm, small but firm. I heard it too, he whispers. You spoke the name. You've broken the silence. She swallows, trembling, chest tight. Lantern light flickers across her face, shadows sharp, revealing courage pressed from years of fear. It's not over, she whispers, voice quiet, deliberate. But it starts now. He nods. Together, they kneel by the well, watching shadows fold across the ridge. The night presses close, cold and heavy, but they are steady, unflinching. The wind dies down slightly. Lantern light sways across water and stone. She presses her palm to his arm again. It's heard, she whispers. And now I choose. The rancher exhales slowly, chest heavy, but steady. Then we face it, he says quietly. She nods once, trembling, small but determined. Shadows stretch long across the ridge, wind hums through the cracks. Silence is no longer a cage. It is a choice. And she has chosen. The ridge is quiet now. Lantern light trembles across cracked stone, rope frayed and worn. She kneels beside the well, fingers brushing its edge, chest tight, trembling. The rancher stands behind her, hand on her shoulder, steady, grounding. It's done, he whispers softly. She shakes her head slightly, eyes fixed on the dark water below. No, she says. It's not done until he's named. Her voice is low, trembling, yet unwavering. The rancher swallows, heart hammering. Then we name him together, he says. She nods once, faintly, hands tightening on the rope. Sheriff Carter lingers at the edge of the ridge, unease written across his face. His smirk is gone, replaced by sharp lines and uncertainty. You think saying it changes anything? He asks, voice low, tentative. She glances at him, small figure rigid against the night. No, she says, but it changes me. It changes the line. Lantern light flickers across her bruised cheeks, the dark water below, the rough stone edges. Shadows stretch long, folding across the ridge, carrying memory, history, and fear finally confronted. Her lips press tight. The rancher kneels beside her, hand hovering near hers. Together, he says softly. She nods slightly. Whitlock, she whispers, small, deliberate, trembling, carrying years of silence in the single word. Her voice wavers, breaks, but continues. James Whitlock. The rancher exhales slowly, relief and grief and fury pressed into one. The sheriff steps back, uneasy, realizing control has shifted entirely. The girl's voice grows steadier with each syllable. She looks at the rancher. I've carried this, she says, trembling but firm. All this time, alone. Remembering. Feeling. Afraid. He nods. And now? She lifts her chin, eyes blazing. Now it is heard. Now it is named. Now it ends with me. Lantern light flickers across her face, highlighting small bruises, dirt streaks, and a resolve that feels larger than the ridge itself. The wind whistles sharply across the rocks, tugging loose hair and cold air into the night. The rancher grips her shoulder lightly. You don't have to carry it anymore, he whispers. She presses her hand against his arm. I choose, she says. I choose to remember, to name, to stop it. The sheriff steps back again, muttering, uneasy. His arrogance is gone. Shadows shift, stretching across the ridge, folding into the dark water below. The well waits, patient, silent, holding the weight of memory, trauma, and justice long delayed. She leans slightly forward, peering into the well. Everything, she whispers. Every lie, every secret, every bruise, every scream. They're all here. They were here. But no more. The rancher kneels beside her, hand brushing hers. It ends with the name, he says quietly. She swallows, trembling, chest tight, and speaks again, Whitlock. James Whitlock. I see you. I remember. I name you. Lantern light flickers, wind hums, shadows fold, and the ridge feels alive with reckoning, truth, and release. Carter shifts, uneasy, stepping back toward the ridge. You can't just, he falters, voice low. She cuts him off with a sharp glance. I can. I will. And I have. The rancher presses lightly on her hand. Together, he says. She nods faintly, trembling but firm. Lantern light dances across their faces, reflecting courage, fear, and the weight of memory finally named. Shadows stretch long across stone, rope, and dark water below. The wind carries their presence across the ridge. She exhales, trembling, eyes fixed on the lantern's glow. I am free, she whispers. Not because he's gone. Not because the past disappears. But because I've named it. I've faced it. I've said it. The rancher nods, chest tight. And you will remember. But you will not be trapped by it. She presses her hand against his arm briefly, grounding herself. Yes, she whispers. I choose to remember, and to live. Lantern light flickers across the ridge, wind rustles loose stones, and for the first time, the night feels lighter. The sheriff retreats silently. Shadows bend around him, reluctant, uneasy. The girl stands, trembling but steady. She looks at the dark water, the frayed rope, the ridge beyond. His name is heard, she says softly, voice clear, deliberate. The rancher takes her hand, guiding her away from the well. Then we move forward, he says quietly. She nods once, small but determined. Lantern light glints off the rope, stone, and their intertwined hands. Shadows fold into the night, holding memory, grief, and release together. She breathes deeply, trembling, small body rigid with tension finally released. It's done, she whispers. The rancher exhales slowly. Yes, he says. It's done with us. Lantern light flickers, shadows stretch long across the ridge. Wind hums softly. She presses her palm to his arm. I will not be silent again, she says. Voice steady, trembling only slightly. And I will not be afraid. The ridge waits, patient, heavy with history, memory, and the weight of names finally spoken. They step back from the well together, chest heaving, lantern swinging gently. Shadows fold over the ridge, carrying long-buried secrets into night. She glances at the rancher. We face tomorrow, she whispers. He nods. Together. Lantern light dances across their faces, frayed rope, cracked stone, and dark water below. The wind whispers through the ridge, carrying the past, the present, and hope forward. She exhales, trembling, voice soft. His name is heard. And I am free.